The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 99.
99.
What are we talking about today?
This is divine intervention.
Cool, good one.
This is going to be a good one, I think. This is I like this topic a lot.
Yes.
A lot. Yeah.
Cool. Well, before we hop into it, anything you want to share from last week?
Yes, let's talk about a couple of things. So first, last week we did energy healing, and we talked in the episode just a little itty bitty bit about moldavite, which is a crystal. Mm-hmm. And I had several messages from people this week about moldavite. So I wanted to tell you guys first what it is, and then also I did find a couple of reputable places to get it. So people can message me if they need a place to get it. But moldavite it's a forest green natural impact glass crystal that's thought to have been formed from the heat of an asteroid impact in Czechoslovakia. This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, since it was brought in by an asteroid, it's kind of considered to be an alien rock, right. But it's like the most powerful crystal. So if you're on a spiritual path and you need a little bit of a boost, or the way people talk about it, a lot of bit of a boost, this is a good crystal to have. Yeah. So far I have found some. I haven't ordered it, but it was really hard to find, and so I've been in my own head about, well, maybe it's just not time. But I'm seeing so many things about it. I know it's really popular right now, so that may be why I'm seeing so much about it. But I just
until you brought it up, I'd never heard about it.
Yeah, and I hadn't either until just recently, and then it's like being shoved down my throat. So I'm like, well, maybe I need to get some of this. So I may have to be the guinea pig and just give it a try and see what it really does, how it really works.
For sure.
So that's moldavite. And then I wanted to talk about how we talk sometimes about how our manifestations happen. And I have a great example this week of how one of my manifestations happened. We have a Great Dane. We talk about him often, Zuma.
Oh, yeah.
And he has some habits that we need to work on. And one of them is we call it car surfing. He will not lay down in the car. So we don't go anywhere with him. And we'd like to go places with him, but we can't.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to manifest a dog trainer. And in the past, I've brought a few in. They're not good with him. Like, he's not hard to work with. He just needs the right person that will understand him,
Right.
So I've been trying to manifest this. I don't think about it often, but when I do, I just throw it out there. Hey, it would be really nice, a dog trainer that can help us. Well,
sure.
On Wednesday, I got this message on our Instagram from a very sweet lady named Candace. And she said, "Hi, guys. I love your podcast. I was just listening to the episode on animal telepathy. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm an animal communicator and dog trainer in Santa Clarita. Something told me to reach out to you, so I am." Santa Clarita is a half hour away from us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I was like, whoa, okay, perfect. So she's coming over next weekend to meet the boys.
Cool.
So these are just things, I think people think that they need to sit on something like this, a manifestation, that they need to constantly be like, bring this to me, bring it. Well, no, just throwing it out there and just letting it go after I knew that they were going to bring me the right dog trainer, so I didn't go looking for one. Yeah. And this happens often, that the right people are just brought to me. I don't have to go looking for them.
Right.
But that's how manifestation works. Ask and you shall receive. It may not happen overnight. They have to line it up. They had to make Candace reach out. Mm-hmm. They had to make her know about our podcast. Right. So there's a whole line of things that has to happen, but it's really cool how
you can't
how
dwell.
It works.
That's one thing I realized. It's you have to just put it out there as it is, as if it is, and go walk away.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Otherwise, if you dwell on it, it makes it not happen. It's strange.
Yeah, that's how it works. The universe knows.
Yeah.
It's a key part of manifestation. It's letting it go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I got for you from last week.
Very nice.
Yep, and thank you, Candace. We're looking forward to meeting you next weekend.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yep, me too.
So is Zuma.
Yep, I'm sure.
All right.
Okay.
Well, how about episode 99?
99.
Divine intervention.
This is a big topic in everybody's lives, I think. I actually asked our discussion group how many of them had felt that divine intervention had at any point in their life been a thing, and 100% of them said yes, that they feel that divine intervention has stepped in.
That's good.
But let me tell you first, what is divine intervention? It is the involvement of a divine deity, so the universe, God, spirit, angel, whatever you want to call it. It interferes in the affairs of humans.
Yeah.
Some people call it a happy coincidence, although some situations may not always seem so happy from the beginning. You know,
Right.
like when something happens, and we'll talk about that later, but, you know, it looks bad, but it isn't.
Yeah.
That's divine intervention as
Yeah.
well. Sometimes it takes time for these things to develop. So here's a question. How many times have you wanted something so bad only to realize it wasn't in your best interest? These are the things we're talking about. Things that can appear as disasters to us at the time can actually turn out later to be a blessing in disguise.
I've had it go both ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's always a reason.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, there's always a reason. Sometimes we are given what we want only to discover it isn't what's best for us. And that's where major life lessons are learned. I've learned that when these things happen, like when they let you make your own mistakes like that, it is to teach you a lesson. But then you're always put back on the right path. That divine intervention happens again, and it puts you back on the right path. I feel like as long as we don't use our free will too much, that this divine intervention very much leads our life in the direction that it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That, again, I mean, that's the purpose we're here.
Right.
The purpose we decided to come here.
Yep. This was interesting that I found the number one rule of spirituality is nothing is a coincidence.
No.
It's not. I asked that to our group, and about 70% felt that nothing is a coincidence. I truly believe that. I think that
Yeah.
word is just a cover-up.
Yeah, I think it's just a way for us to explain the weirdness about certain things happening at certain same times, or, you know.
Right. Exactly. Like, have you
Connections.
ever been like really low on money and you're like,
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know how I'm going to, well, that's a dumb question, right?
Yeah.
Haven't we all? But where you feel like there's no out, there's absolutely no out at all. And then all of a sudden something happens,
Yes.
whatever it is, like the most random things. You'll just get a check, like you overpaid your car insurance by $100 or whatever.
Yeah.
It just random things like that. That's divine intervention as well. That's the universe giving you a little break. I like to look at it, go back to what we talked about as life being like a video game. And those little things are like the coins that they help us out with. They're not like major parts of the story, but they're like rewards, like little bits of divine intervention here to help out.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I've had it happen many times.
Yeah.
And it always seems that there's a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's not coincidence to me.
It's not. It's just how this works.
Yeah.
You know, does it work like this for everybody? Well, I think it does if you allow it to.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you use your free will too much, then I don't know if it's just that the universe backs off and is like, this person is just not, you know, it's not worth it. Or if they keep continuing to try and you're just not listening, you know. I'm sure it depends on the case itself, but
Yeah, I would say that free will can carve you a path. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would say that your free will could carve you a path in life somewhere.
absolutely.
But if you were to step back at the end of your life and see the possibilities of what kind of going with your intuition and where you're being pulled as opposed to where you want, you know, and that can be a complicated statement, meaning, you know, maybe you want to be a teacher that isn't the most high-paying job in the world, but you're so, you know what I mean, devoted to that.
Yeah.
That's your calling, but you feel like you want to go make, you know, 6 figures a year.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's a great example. I asked our listeners if they could give me some examples of of areas like where divine intervention has come in. And so here's a few of them. Amy said, I almost went to the music fest in Vegas the year of the shooting and decided at the last minute not to go.
Yeah, she was listening.
Yeah. Those are the types of things that if you like have any kind of feeling like I just shouldn't go, if you know, I don't know what it is, there will probably be more roadblocks too. Like a lot of times, you know, you might miss your Uber might not show up or you know, whatever, different things to try and say, don't go. But, and I'm not saying this happened to all those people there because I don't know that. But I know for me that a lot of times I listen to those now because I get those a lot. Don't do that. Yeah. You know, just don't. Or do this, you know, the other way. But that's a good example of a don't do this. Let's see. Susan said, I caused a single car accident during some inclement weather. Someone else took the steering wheel for me and avoided what could have been a far more severe collision. I felt my hands being forced from the wheel and the car began to spin in an alternate direction. Wow. No injuries other than a young tree. I was seriously bewildered by it all. I was skidding seriously left and ended up 3 lanes over in the parking lot to the right. Wow. Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah. There's absolutely, you know, you can be put in those situations too. It doesn't mean go and, you know, try them out or anything. But I really believe it's not your time. They're going to intervene and it won't be your time. Yeah. You know.
Yeah, thank God you're alive.
Yeah, exactly. Jonathan said, I was inches from being hit by a train. Long story, but I believe that some form of intervention kept me from turning into juice that day. To this day, I am extremely careful around train tracks. Yeah. Yeah, whatever it was that got you away from there that day. Yeah, absolutely. There's extreme versions of this. There's mild versions. I'll give you an extreme one for me. And this is one that's very hard for some people to swallow, is that my mother's passing was divine intervention. It was divine intervention for everybody involved because her life was completely falling apart. Yeah. And it gave her an out. Yeah. It also, I wouldn't be where I am today without her. Yeah. My brother either. We absolutely wouldn't. So she's been a guide for us. Now, it's been, how long has it been? 16 years since she passed, something like that. If you would have told me this at year 1, that it was divine intervention and it was meant to be this way, I would have said you were crazy. Even at year 5, okay? It took me a long time to accept that. Yeah, I was very pissed. I was like, don't.
How dare you?
Yeah. You know, because people do tell you that. They tell you everything happens for a reason and God took her for a reason. And it's like, I don't want to hear that. And people I know, when they lose somebody, they don't want to hear that. But truth is that down the line you really see the reason, and like everybody dies, we're all going to die. So it's weird to bring my grandmother into this, but when my grandmother passed, my life changed as well. So her passing was, and the way that because I took care of her for 7 years, the way that was brought into my life was divine intervention. It's the way that things are put together. If you look back and you see how the universe kind of stepped in, those are all ways that it's intervened in our lives to make sure that it goes the way it's supposed to go.
That's true.
It's pretty incredible. So divine intervention isn't always them taking over. A lot of the times you need to make the changes make the changes yourself, but Spirit and God is guiding you. If you're observant enough, it can become easier to navigate through tough situations. Yeah. It really is, because I do now. I let them guide me now. Yeah. It took a while to understand this, but
it's part of the intuitive process. I mean, like the listener that shared about deciding at the last minute not to go to the Vegas show. Right. There was something telling her, you know, and so she opted to go against free will and a good time listening to some live music. Right. And go with that gut feeling or that thought or voice in her head that said, sit this one out. Right. Exactly. Relationships are really another good point to this, is that I think for a lot of people, they stay in a bad relationship even though the signs are there. Or like in the case we were talking about, where the universe will give you what you want to teach you a lesson. Yeah. I've been there in relationships in every one of them, and I realize now that those relationships had to end to get to where I am today. Yeah. But when you're in the middle of it and you don't want to think that way, that, you know, there's somebody else out there for you, you might try and stop this divine intervention or not listen. Yeah. But the universe will always
tell you and try and guide you in the right direction.
Well, and not being a spring chick anymore and having more of my life to look back on.
Yes.
In retrospect, I can honestly say there's a larger percentage of my life that has involved divine intervention than there is not.
Yes, absolutely.
And that the scope of that runs from hopes, dreams, relationships, career, whatever.
Yep, me too.
So it takes time to get further down the road to look at that and see it. But I think and maturity too, but for sure, yeah.
So how do you know when divine intervention is trying to step in? Because I get asked a lot from people, like, how do I know? What are the signs that I'm looking for? Because even when it comes to like hearing from their loved ones, I get people, especially with animals. Like I had a lady the other day that her horse died and she sees signs from him, but she doesn't want to believe. Well, she wants to believe, but she doesn't believe. She thinks that there's no way. She starts overthinking. So that's something about this too, is divine intervention, is that sometimes we feel like we're overthinking. Like, no, it just has to be a coincidence. It's not, something that came in, that stepped in. It's just a coincidence. But here I have a whole list of ways to know if it's divine intervention stepping in. And has anybody ever told you you are lucky? I hear this a lot. And maybe I am lucky, but there's always that little tap on my shoulder that tells me to do something. Let's see. So the word luck is strange because it doesn't acknowledge the possibility of something greater is at play. Luck is a word for cynics who believe good things happen by chance. Here's a good example for you. I can't remember how old I was. Early 20s. Because my mom was still alive. I was visiting her at a hotel in Vegas. I lived in Vegas and she was there, and we had dinner together. And then as I was leaving, I needed change for the valet. And money was hard. I, could use a little extra cash, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, whatever, I'll put this in the $1 slots. I had a $20 bill. I'm going to put it in the $1 slots and just see what happens. Mm-hmm. I won $1,500.
Nice.
I knew which machine to go to. That wasn't like, I didn't feel that was my psychic ability, and I still really don't. I think that we can be guided to anything like that if we really, you don't even have to listen. You just have to go with it. Mm. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when we think we're listening, we're overthinking instead of actually listening. It's kind of just like going with it. Just being like, okay, well, I feel like I should play this machine, so I'm going to. And if I lose my $20, I lose my $20.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to win $1,500. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. I wouldn't have argued with that.
No, definitely not. So a lot of these times where you hear that, you're so lucky, or you win this, you win that. A lot of times that's not what it is. It is that divine intervention and you listening to it. Right. You listening to those signs. Mm-hmm. Let's see. You see angel numbers. We're going to do a whole episode on this. I think it's important because this is a very extensive topic and I get asked a lot of questions about it. Mm-hmm. But so angel numbers they're a form of synchronicities, and there's countless of these synchronicities, such as like 1111. Maybe you see, every day you see 111, 222, 333. Every day I see them every single day.
1234.
Yeah, exactly. 911. That's when you see it often. Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of people think that these are things that have a specific meaning to them, that you should go online and look up. I see 1111 every day, but it's not what it is for one person is not what it is for another person. So don't go by those charts. You form your own kind of language with the other side if you pay attention to these angel numbers enough. I don't really look at them as like what other people do, like specific signs. Like I'd see 1111 pretty much every day. If I don't see it, that's a sign to me. Right. Then that's saying to me, maybe you're off a little bit today. Maybe there's a reason that you didn't see it. But you make your own kind of rules with it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like the other side, they will go by whatever kind of like rules you set. If you say, I want, 222 to mean this, then it will. Mm-hmm. But like I said, we'll do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, that's good. I like to do that one.
Yeah. But you may see these numbers leading you towards a deep inner transformation. Angel numbers can be the most confusing to understand, but there are many that will grab your attention. Mm-hmm. So don't overthink them.
Right.
Well, like we said, we'll do a whole episode.
Yeah, because I just see them all the time. So.
Yeah. And people get worried. They start to,
at first I did that. Not worried, but I was sort of,
yeah.
what are they trying to say? What are they trying to say? I think it's just, we're here. We're still here. You're
or
not
they're just
alone.
guiding you. Yeah. They're just saying you're on the right track. You're doing good. For me, it's a reminder that I'm connected, that I'm, doing my best. On days that maybe my energy is lower, I don't see them as much.
Yeah.
I don't. But
I know.
days it's higher. And I'll tell you, there's some days where I'm like every day on the hour, I tell you,
Oh, yeah.
It happens. Yeah. And the more that you allow it to happen, the more it does happen.
Yeah. The more you acknowledge it, that is what is happening.
Yes.
The more you will see it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Because they like that. They don't want to work for nothing.
Well, they're not going to be throwing out as much of symbols or signs to you that you're not acknowledging.
Right.
They're going to move on to something else.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Until you acknowledge that one thing, and then they'll go, aha, that's our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it can be whatever you want.
Yep, you said it. Absolutely. You notice a lot of synchronicities. A synchronicity can be so many things.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to narrow down what a synchronicity actually can be. Thinking about something and then hearing strangers talking about that something, that can be a synchronicity. That happened to us the other day. We have been thinking about buying a house, and these people were standing next to us having a whole conversation of why right now is not the time to buy a house. And it just blows my mind when things like that happen. Or it's like every other commercial is like Zillow or this or that, and you're like, stop. But it's that they're trying to tell you something.
Yeah. Or even we've talked about, like in our telepathy episode, when you're thinking about somebody or whatever and they call you or message you or something like that. You're using this connection, this communication ability with your minds across space and time.
Right.
But you're synchronizing your vibrations
together.
So it still involves synchronicity, you
Right.
know? So it is a pretty vast topic.
Yeah, it is. And usually, people believe that, with synchronicities, it's more than one thing happening that kind of all relates together, basically. So, for me, sometimes if I'm having a bad day or I'm in my own head or whatever, I might see something that brings me out of it. And then I might hear a song or, there's 3, 4, 5 different things all at once that are happening that are showing me that they're here and they're guiding and they're helping and to relax.
Yeah.
And that's, that to me is the main gist of the synchronicities too, is just listen to us. Just follow us and you're fine. Don't worry about it. The other day we went thrift clothes shopping, and right next to the space that we parked in, it said, there was stamped on the ground, somebody spray painted it or something. It said, I hope you know how loved you are.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh, took my breath away. Yeah. Yeah. So those types of things, they're synchronicities. You may just look at them as nothing, as coincidences, but they're something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's see. Okay. This is a big one, and we talked about this before, but that's being stopped, blocked, or delayed. If you hit a roadblock, there is a reason. If something is blocking you from moving forward, you need to stop and listen.
That's probably the most difficult one for me personally.
Yeah.
But I see it more now. I don't fight it as much,
Yes.
I realize, okay, it doesn't feel good when it's kind of halted. But you understand, if I push this, it then, with my own free will, it possibly can then go in a direction I don't want it to go.
The universe isn't trying to hinder your progress. I think that's what we think, that they're like, oh, slow down. But that's not it at all. The universe, God, spirit, wants what's best for you. And sometimes what's best for us isn't what we may think.
Absolutely.
That's why those roadblocks are put there. When there is an obvious roadblock, stop and reevaluate the situation for sure. And this can be anything. This can be large or small. This has happened to me, or maybe it doesn't happen to me more often. Maybe I notice it more often and I stop, because I used to look at these things as like an inconvenience. Like, for example, if I was online and like I couldn't order something, if like it kept like saying, you know, they can't process or going, you know, the site's not working.
You wouldn't give up and then screw yourself.
Exactly. There's a reason. There's always a reason. Yeah. And, you know, whatever that reason is, I mean, I can tell you this has happened to me a lot. And I listen. I stop now. I usually like will try, like if it's just once, I'll try again. And then a lot of times I'll be like, okay, if this just isn't supposed to be this way, then I'm going to try a third time, and you block me a third time. Right. And that's how I know. Right. But it's really important at that point to just stop. You know, it could be anything. It could just be that moment is not the right time, or that whatever you're going to order, like I've done this where I've been going to order something, I already have it. You know, I think I'm out of it, but I'm not. Right. So something like that, you know, simple things, even not necessarily big things, but there are examples of huge roadblocks. And here's a good one for you. The Challenger explosion. Mm-hmm. That's, if there was a special on Netflix, highly recommended. I can't remember what it was called, but it's about the Challenger. Yeah. And it gets into how they knew that it shouldn't be going up. Yeah. And there was roadblock after roadblock, and they kept going around it. Every roadblock, they were like, no, not going to stop here. But if they would have just stopped and listened, then that explosion wouldn't have happened. Yep. And it wouldn't have killed all those people. Yep. You know?
It's a bummer.
It is. It absolutely is. And that's how free will can sometimes take over, because people ask, why do bad things happen? Why did that explosion happen? Why did people die like that? Were they supposed to die like that? Well, I can't answer that question of were they supposed to die like that? But I truly feel that free will is what caused that to happen. Oh, yeah. So probably not. They probably were not supposed to die like that. Yep. That's other people's free will. Right. You know? Something else to look for is blessings in disguise. Sometimes life happens and drastically alters your course. It pushes you out of your comfort zone and makes you go like, WTF, you know? What just happened? Things like being fired from a job, or being in a relationship where maybe somebody cheats on you, and that's your way of knowing that you have to leave that relationship, you know? An example here is I've done a couple of these readings over the last year for people that have lost somebody shortly before COVID, like within 6 months or so of COVID. The most recent one was a lady whose husband, unfortunately, he killed himself. He had COPD and he wasn't getting the help that he needed, and he was miserable. This was 2 months before COVID hit. And when I connected with him and we started talking about it, what he said was that he had to go before COVID hit. And that shows you right there that sometimes the suicides, they do happen for a reason as well. Yeah. If he wouldn't have died before COVID, he would have died from COVID. And from what I gathered from what he said, both him and his wife would have been very sick. Wow. And it would have been really, really hard. And then I believe he would have still died. Yeah. So even though the death was very hard for her, the way that he died was different, and it wasn't as extended as it would have been. It would have been a long process, you know? So those things happen, and they don't look like blessings in disguise at the time, but they are, you know?
And she wouldn't even have been able to be by his side if she was dealing with it herself.
Absolutely, she wouldn't be able to be by him. Yeah, you can't at all. And that's a whole other thing, you know? I mean, it sucks the way it happened, but, you know, she understood that too. Like, I was kind of afraid to say that to her, you know, but Spirit always pushes me to like what I'm supposed to say. Right. And she needed to hear that because that's what she believed as well. Yeah. Was that's why it happened. So
that's good.
Yeah. One of the other ways that they will try and get your attention is music. This is huge. Yeah. Especially if you're a music person, like, this is a huge area for both of us. Right. We get music randomly all the time.
I mean, just even a music lover. You don't have to be a player of music.
No, I'm not a music player. Right. I mean, you are, but I'm not. Pay attention to the music. Not every word will resonate, but the right songs for you will be played at the right time. Here's an example for you. I can't remember what it was, but there was one day that I I was just rough. I was having a bad day. I needed something. I needed a sign.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving, and there's a station that like flips back and forth between two.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to the train tracks, and whenever you get to the train tracks, it seems to do this. It flips on me. And as soon as it flipped on me, Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas came on.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan of the song.
Right.
I don't really even know the song, but the words that were really the only words that I heard before it flipped back were "Carry on, my wayward son, there'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest and don't cry no more." And I was like, whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
So sometimes these things, they pop out at you.
Yep.
And when they do, a lot of times we want to think, oh, it's just a coincidence. It's not anything. It's not real. But it is.
Yeah.
It totally is.
And kind of like a moment, too, where it would pull on your heartstrings and be like, why? Why did that strike me like that this time? I've heard that song a million times. Well,
yes.
Maybe there's
totally
some sort of intervention there that's trying to get your attention.
And that's another area that you can totally set up your like own language with the other side. I did that when I went to buy a car a couple of years ago, and I really didn't want to buy a car. I've talked about this before, but the divine intervention and the guidance is what guided me to the car that I was supposed to get. And one of the ways that I knew this was because of music and this synchronicity system that I've set up with my parents on the other side. Mm-hmm. And so what I said was, if I'm supposed to give up, I want to hear mom songs. If I'm supposed to keep going, I want to hear dad songs, because my dad was big into cars. And it was dad songs. It was so clearly obvious dad songs, but like, you know, you want to make it maybe not super difficult for them. So like I have a couple of songs that are Billy Joel with my dad, but I'll take any Billy Joel song most of the time, you know, because it is hard for them to just pinpoint, you know, sometimes. So those things, I'll take them. But if it hits you, if there's a lyric that hits you, it doesn't have to be the whole song.
No.
It doesn't. It's just, you know.
That's the magic about music and lyrics, is we can kind of... There's millions of songs that don't really mean the same thing to us as they do the writer.
Right.
You know, we kind of make up our own, and that's okay.
Yeah,
That's part of the magic that's going on here, is we're able to use these things as ways to communicate.
Yep.
When it's really not necessarily what it was meant as. You know, it's a interesting...
Yeah, you just have to
It's
do
a
it for yourself.
vehicle to go back and forth. It's really wild.
Yeah, you have to take for yourself. Like, you were stuck on the fact that Hotel California was... We always heard that Hotel California was written about an insane asylum here in Southern California.
That's been the myth for years.
For years and years and years. And I recently read an article that debunked that.
Right.
So we know that that's not true. But for those of us that live here and have heard that, we associate the song with that a lot.
Right.
And this became one of the songs that my mom was throwing at us all the time. And I had to analyze what it was. And one of the things that I said to you was, let go what you know about this song, or what you think you know about this song, and just listen to the parts that stick out to you, you know, and how it fits your life, because every word isn't going to. And I think that made a lot more sense to you. And
it took a little time, but it started to, like, as I was out and just it would come on or something, and that would happen.
Yep.
Certain lines would jump out, and I'd be like, wow, Mercedes-Benz. Okay, well, you were driving a Mercedes-Benz when I met you.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, there's a lot in the song that pertains to our life.
So, yeah, there's certain things that I was starting to get it, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't hear it at first. And then coming to find out, it had nothing to do with what I even had grown up learning. Apparently it's about cocaine addiction, but...
Yeah.
Where these myths get started, you know. Another song that we hear a lot too is "In the Air Tonight."
Yeah.
Which there's a myth behind that song, which isn't true either.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Supposedly, there's a myth that Phil Collins saw somebody murder his best friend, and then sang the song to them live.
Yeah.
And they were arrested while he was performing it. And none of this happened.
Huge myth.
It was about his divorce.
Yeah. I don't know how these things get started. I really don't. It's so weird. A small example, too, of how this can work is one morning I had my headphones in and I asked tell me about my day. What's my day going to be like today? And the next song that came on was Cake by the Ocean. Well, that day we went to Santa Barbara and we had Crab by the Ocean. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there and all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, oh my gosh, they played that song, Cake by the Ocean. And here I am. I'm having Crab by the Ocean. Weird. But, little things like that. Yeah. It wasn't, the whole song didn't pertain to the day. It was just that one line, right. And it can even be changed. Music is amazing and they try to use it for a lot of things.
I think that's part of one of the biggest reasons it's here.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's here for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. But yeah, communication, it's divine. It definitely, pay attention more for sure. Dreams is another way, but dreams can be tricky because I think we want to overanalyze these a lot. Like we may be like, well, that can't possibly mean what it sounds like it meant. So I'm going to, turn it into something it's not or whatever, where usually if there's a message dream, it'll be pretty simple. Yeah. It won't be some big complex. It won't be scary. It won't be anything like that. They'll try to come to you, if they appear to you too in a dream. Right. That's very good, sign that they're trying to get your attention. Not for something bad, because I get that a lot from people too, is why they keep coming to me in my dreams. Right. They're letting you know they're there.
And then some you just can't, it's just your subconscious that's doing weird things, with information. Let's say you spent the day peeling shrimp to cook, and for dinner, and then that night you had a nightmare that there were these giant shrimp chasing you. Well, you know what I mean? Can you really explain? Is that,
totally.
That's just the weird, I guess, the weird things our brain does. That's the only way I can explain it. Yeah. But then some are definitely not those types of dreams that do have messages and answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you have a lot of vivid dreams, keeping a dream journal is very helpful, because then you might be able to see the patterns of like, okay, well, this night I dreamt about this and I kind of dreamt about it later, whatever. And you maybe can put a pattern together or, messages together and start to see, because I think a lot of times with divine intervention, we don't notice it until retrospect.
Yeah.
It's hard to see when you're smack dab in the middle of it that the universe is actually stepping in and guiding your life.
That's why I said at this age, I can look back now and see a greater percentage of my life has been divine intervention than it has not been.
Right, exactly.
But it takes getting that distance to see.
It absolutely does.
That takes age and maturity and experience. You have to go through some shit, to get to some stuff.
Right, no, that's absolutely right. That's what life's about.
Yeah, it's a learning and why we're here.
That's exactly right.
But knowing that you're not really dropped here alone to kind of fend for yourself is so reassuring and freeing at the same time. It's like you realize you have a team. You have people that are trying to help you, but part of your lesson is learning how to hear that.
Yeah, and we all have the team.
Yeah, we all do.
I know there's a lot of people that are like, but I don't have any relatives that have passed, or, well, you do. You may not.
You have people you never met.
Right. And that's another one. I never met them. How can they be on my team?
Doesn't matter.
It's the soul. It's the soul. Every soul recognizes each other. And in your soul family, that's what we do for each other. That's, you go to the other side and, you help take care of your soul family that's here on earth. You're this divine intervention when you get to the other side. Yep. There's a lot of players in our lives too. That we may not even think of. For both of us, my ex-mother-in-law, your ex-mother-in-law, both of them are huge players in our lives. But who would have thought that? Because we're divorced from the people that, from their kids.
And I think, honestly, her passing at a relatively early age, and at the timing that she did, was definitely divine intervention.
Oh, yeah.
Because she knew she could help Marina a lot more.
Absolutely.
From there.
Absolutely.
Than she could here.
Yeah. absolutely. And I know that my ex-mother-in-law is doing the same thing for her kids and still for me. It's like I see my team and they sometimes they have to remind me that you have a biological mother, you have a grandmother, but you also have Kathy. She's your ex-mother-in-law, but she was just like a mother to you. Those are my women. Those are my 3 women that are behind me. And that may sound weird, but that's how it works.
And when our time each individually comes to go and cross to the other side, we will have the same responsibility. Yes, we'll be highly involved in helping and trying to communicate and guide our family and our loved ones here. But I also believe we are assigned somebody we don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think that's part of the lesson is like you need to guide this soul like it was your own.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not. It's a complete stranger.
Yep.
We each have those the day we're born.
Yep.
Those are our true spirit guides. Family can step in and get involved, as well when they, like your mom is a great example, but you still had guides before your grandmother and your mother passed.
Yeah, and I see that. I look back and I see that because there were strange coincidences, so to speak, happening to me long before my mom died. It's just that with each additional person that passed in my life, it upped it a notch.
Yeah.
There were more things that started happening. Like my life, when my grandmother died, all of a sudden, changed drastically. Not because I didn't do anything. It just all of a sudden these things started happening, this divine intervention. It was like she got there and she was like, I'm here. And then Kathy died a couple of months after Kitty did. So it was like I have these 2 strong women all of a sudden, and then they just changed everything. So I think when you have somebody that passed too, and if you start to see your life changing, that's another way of just knowing these people that have passed, they're stepping in to help you, and let them. Because we let my grandmother help us, and it really, really did. It's amazing. They do work together better as a team too. The more souls that are with you, so it's hard to accept when they pass here, but they're still there. And, when we all pass, like you said, it'll be the same way. We'll be taking care of and doing the same thing for our kids and grandkids and friends.
Right.
You have a lot of friends behind you too. So do I.
Yeah.
We all do. People that we don't even realize that are there, that are rooting for us and helping us.
But nobody's forgotten.
No.
That's what's so beautiful about it is that the day you decide to come into this world, you have guides that are assigned to you, whether you know it or don't know it or like it or don't like it, whether you haven't any family over there to help guide or not guide. So nobody's forgotten. They're like, yep.
Yeah, you're right.
You too, over here. That's your job. You know what I mean?
Right,
That's it. Nobody.
No.
Do you know how many souls there are? I would say there's. I couldn't even tell you.
It's
but
too high to count.
I would say in the billions.
Oh, probably more than
if
that.
If not trillions.
Yeah.
And
more than we can count.
Yeah, I think it's much larger than the amount of bodies in. I don't know. This would just be speculating, but to say it's larger than the amount of bodies that are in the universe.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, because you have so many waiting on the other side.
People are waiting.
Yep.
Souls are waiting. So there is
lots.
So many, but the amazing part is not one's forgotten.
That's right. Even the ones that seem like they may be, that's unfortunately where free will kicks in. Because you don't have to listen to that divine intervention.
No, you don't.
No. And that's what happens sometimes.
Yeah.
It's amazing when you do, though. So the last one on my list, which goes great with what we're talking about right now, is intuition. And this is the number one way of divine communication. It just is. But you have to trust it. You have to listen to it. We all have the intuition. It's within all of us. It's our inner compass. And learning to trust our inner voice and that just knowing is key. I mean, how many times have you said to yourself, I just knew that. I knew that was going to happen. That's your intuition. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's your intuition kicking in. And it really does do that for all of us. They will do whatever they can to get a message through to you before they kind of put those certain roadblocks up. They want us to use our intuition. They don't want to have to throw up the roadblocks like you miss your flight or you get a flat tire. Or like when I hear somebody that's like, well, today I got a flat tire and so I had to fix that. And then I had to go home because I spilt food all over myself and, you know, a whole list of things. Well, what were you going to do that day that it was the universe was preventing you from doing?
Right.
Look at those things because there really is a correlation. And it may seem like, you know, they ruined it for me. I was supposed to do something. Well, no.
Yeah.
You know, it could be as simple as, you know, like let's say that you're going to go on vacation one day, but you know that the plane that you're on, it's you know, it has to make a detour or something happens. I'm not saying crash. I'm just saying, you know, something happens. And you miss that flight and you take another one. It may not even be the flight. It might be something about where you're going. And a lot of the times you will not know.
Right.
You'll be like, I don't know why I just changed my course of action, but that's okay. You don't have to know because that prevented whatever was going to happen from happening. You know, maybe an accident. Maybe you feel like I should take a different route home today.
Yeah.
And you do, and you avoid an accident, but you don't know that.
Yeah.
That little voice is that intuition is that divine intervention telling you, you know, I hear things like that a lot in my head, my own voice, you know, yeah, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. It's not like my mom going, hey, Samantha, you should do this. It's not like that. I mean, sometimes I get those messages, but for the most part, intuition is you telling yourself.
Yeah.
It's hearing it as I.
Yeah, when I hear it as I, that's how I've been able to sort of separate. You know, it's still all connected.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But I do hear you, too.
Yeah. And the way that I've kind of come to figure it is that when I hear I, it's my inner voice, my intuition working, telling myself something. And when I hear you, it's one of my guides, my mom, whoever. Yeah. And a lot of times I'll stop. If I hear the you, I'll stop and I'll connect to whatever that was and expand on it. You know, where if it's just I'll be like, okay, I guess I should do that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But that's one way for me. I don't know, you know, if there's other people that have noticed that, I'd love to hear about it. But that's, yeah, one way that I know. So, but these are all ways that the universe shows us that it's trying to intervene in our lives. And like I said, if we don't listen to like these things, it will still do its job. It will do the best that it can. Watch that Challenger episode and I sat there the whole time watching that going, oh my gosh, the universe tried and tried and tried to stop this. Tried, it stopped over and over. Those are the ways that you know that the universe is really trying to step in, and it just can't any other way is when it continues to put those roadblocks up for you.
Yeah, sadly enough, that was about ratings.
Yeah.
That was about money.
It was. Yeah, a lot of people lost their lives
and
because of that.
Popularity, because one of the engineers, he's no longer alive, but his daughter recalled several occasions where he was like, this thing's going to blow, man. And he's kind of having sort of mental breakdowns about it because he feels so guilty.
Right.
But he keeps saying this thing's going to blow. And he's saying exactly why it's going to blow.
Yep. And
they wouldn't listen to him.
Nope. And I wonder, because several of the crew members, they didn't have good feelings. I don't know if they knew, but there were things that they said, like, you know, that they were afraid, that they knew that this thing just wasn't.
Once they revealed that the SEALs were jeopardized, none of them, the ones that were paying attention, could rest easy knowing that we can't keep using this thing over and over again.
Yep.
The SEALs are bad.
So you wonder what does one do in that situation? Like, let's just say that one of the crew members, that they were boarding that aircraft and they went, you know, I just know I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. What do? You can't at that moment go, I got to go. I mean, you can, but are you going to? If the intuition is that strong, you should. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you should. If you feel like this is
But I could
just
see
not a
some of
good
these
idea.
guys going, well, what, you know, if I walk out of here and I got to go home and tell my wife I quit my job and that thing didn't explode.
Right. Then you look dumb, right?
Then I look like I'm insane.
But it also could be that something would have happened to you, that if one of those crew members felt that way, that maybe they would have gotten sick in space and it just wasn't they weren't supposed to be there. So, and then they wouldn't have known that. Yeah. But that's why we don't do things like that, because we're afraid.
Yeah.
We're afraid that, if we follow that advice, that intuitive advice, that we're going to look stupid. I've gotten to the point where I will follow it. Especially if I'm really, I get really nervous if I don't.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, nope. Stopping right now. I know right now this is a roadblock.
Yeah, I feel bugged at some point if I don't acknowledge it.
Yeah. I think once you practice this more too, you see it more and more. You know. So for our listeners that are into this spirituality and live this kind of lifestyle, you probably do notice this a lot. And when you're just starting out, maybe you're just noticing it a little bit, These things all continuously grow for me. And so it's hard to explain to people, well, how do I know what these synchronicities mean? How do I know when they're trying to intervene? Well, you may not know 100% for sure, but you just got to go with what you feel, Go with what it looks like the universe wants you to do and the path that it's leading you down. And
it's a lot less exhausting to not fight it,
Yeah. It is.
When you're hearing the message and you're you don't accept it, or, things feel stagnant and you just want to push. And you realize how much energy that takes just for you to end up where you kind of weren't supposed to end up, or you weren't expecting to end up, as opposed to just be patient.
Right.
Give it some time and it will most likely work in your favor.
Right. And a lot of times we think that we know what's best for us. And so we feel like, well, no, maybe this avenue isn't best for us. We've seen a couple of houses where we're like, that's the house, because we're so excited. And then I'm like, no, I know, I come back down. I know,
right.
You have to listen to that inner voice too of, am I just excited? Am I just worried? Am I, relax yourself and come back to the inner voice and say, what's really happening here?
Yeah.
And that helps, because sometimes nerves get the best of you too. And you might think that the universe is trying to intervene, but it's actually anxiety. I have had that. And that's where I just have to meditate, calm my mind and come back to it. Okay, what am I being told? What kind of intervention are they trying to give me here that I'm not listening to? And when you do that, it definitely is very, very helpful. That's another area that meditation is very helpful in.
Yeah.
Is just being able to understand these kinds of messages more clearly. So that is my divine intervention episode for you.
Very nice.
I love this topic.
I do too.
Yeah, because there's I could seriously write a book of all the ways that I've had this happen.
And you don't have to be religious.
No. I don't think that this is necessarily a religious thing.
No,
I think it's
there's
just
divine
belief.
intervention in everyone's life. Everyone, whether you are religious or not.
Yep.
There's divine intervention.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And if you can see it and acknowledge it, I think it happens more then.
Oh, it absolutely does. Absolutely. The more that you listen to it, absolutely, because that's what they want. They want you to listen, and if the more you listen, the more that they help you.
Yep.
So.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, that was a good one.
Oh, show.
Yeah.
Well, I got this scratchy throat all of a sudden. Excuse me. Before we say goodbye to our friends, do you want to share your page?
Yes. So you can find everything you need on my website, SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. If you would like to set up an appointment, my email is there. You can just shoot me an email or find me on Facebook. And if you'd like to message us, you can do that. SpiritualJoneses@gmail.com. We love your messages.
Please.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
All right. For me, for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Facebook and Instagram. And for the music, gypsybrown.com for the web, at gypsybrownmusic for Instagram, and at gypsybrown for Facebook. And that's it for me.
Yay.
Well, we hope everybody got something out of this.
That we do. And next week, episode 100. Can you believe it?
100.
100 next week.
Very good.
I know. Wild.
Yeah. Time is a-flying.
That it is.
That's exciting, though.
Yep.
Good.
It is.
Well, We hope everybody has a great week.
That we do.
And until next week, peace and love.